Thanks for spending some time with us. We appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day. I know you have your coffee pumping, so we expect a lot of very good answers and a good conversation from you today. But I just want to kick things off by asking you, why don't you tell the Inspire audience about Elephant Journal, and why don't you tell us how it started and what's the mission? Why don't you tell us more about it?
Well, we're actually, I think right about now, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary. The party is actually in a month, but about 10 years ago today, I was a freelance magazine journalist, and I'd grown up in a Buddhist community, so I was working in program development there, and I met a lot of sort of thought leaders or change makers through that program development at Shabal Mountain Center and some other places. I'd worked in publishing. I loved writing, wanted to change the world. I wanted to have a good time doing so. And I wanted to make a ton of money, start a business, and eventually be able to raise a family, based on that business. So I wound up kind of just tripping upon this local magazine startup called Yoga in the Rockies. And I frankly, I don't even think I'd done yoga at all at the time. I was pretty condescending about it. They all seemed like love and light, kind of airy fairy, hippy dippy types. And but I did recognize that yoga was, had been on the cover of Time magazine, and it was becoming this huge movement and fad in a way. And I recognized that it was a very healthy and promising fad, that people who did yoga tended to care about what they ate and um, being good people. They had, they all have their like Dalai Lama quote book on their toilet. They're like, is a huge gateway to environmentalism and to activism, social activism, to a lot of things I did care about passionately. I personally am very passionate about politics, personally, and the environment. And so anyway, I wound up getting involved with that magazine, and the founder of that magazine was smarter than me and very quickly realized that it was going to be a long time before we made any money. And so he actually quit a month or two after we started, I think even before the first issue, or maybe right after, and to get a real job. And I wound up just sort of taking all that. We'd incurred a lot of debt very quickly in advertising relationships, and I was stuck. We were stuck, and I agreed to kind of take that on, and quite happily, I have to say. It was the first time. I probably never would have been crazy enough to start a magazine, which is I always say, one of the dumbest ways to try and get rich possible. But I love the, printed word, and I love the online word now. And I really enjoyed kind of building that community and growing what I renamed as Elephant. I didn't really have an interest in focusing on yoga. I wanted to focus on everything yoga people cared about, which is everything, which is mountain biking or cloth diapers or eco-fashion or education. And so we called it the Mindful Life. That's our slogan. We have our little business cards. There's stickers
Nice.
on the front, and the info is all on the back. Sort of a little eco solution. And yeah, it's been a good time. It's been a stressful and exhausting 10 years. I never wanted any investment. Independent media is unfortunately, one of my values. So that's been tough. And at this point, we're doing pretty well, and we've won a couple awards, and we're kind of back. For the first 5 or 6 years, we were a print magazine. We went national, distributed in Whole Foods, etc., bookstores. But the bigger we got, the fewer options we had to distribute the magazine in an eco-responsible way. And not being a huge hypocrite is definitely one of my values. Being a little bit of a hypocrite, we're all human, we can't be perfect. But magazines nationally sell about 3 out of 10 copies, 4 out of 10 if they're lucky, on the newsstand. And to me, that was, environmentally speaking, when you're shipping the magazine all over, it's kind of untenable. So I went online, and that's been, frankly, a lot easier. It's a lot harder to make money, but it's a lot easier to grow, and it's a lot more fun. We probably have 40 articles a day as opposed to 40 articles every quarter when we were a magazine. The quality, of course, is a little bit questionable compared to the magazine, but we're now hiring up, and we have hundreds of amazing volunteers around the world. And I think, you know this very well from your side. There's a lot of, not enough, but there's a lot of feeling of inspiration and urgency among those who want to give our children and grandchildren a kind of amazing world that we've inherited.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned, Elephant is very focused on mindful living, and a big part of that is living in a sustainable way, purchasing environmentally friendly products. Why is that so important to you, and why do you think it should be important for the Inspire audience?
Well, great design, there's the whole form function thing. I mean, great design always has a certain simplicity and elegance and boldness to it. And nature, or God, whatever you want to call it, is certainly the original designer. And if we can use products that have a lot of love and a lot of attention put into them, a lot of thought and care put into them. Like, I'm looking behind you all can't see it, but I have this really, really old chair that's just gorgeous. Gorgeous wood, gorgeous hand craftsmanship that I bought off Craigslist. Obviously, reuse is one of the most environmentally friendly things we can do in terms of our buying habits. At this point, capitalism and corporatism, all that is at least as powerful, if not more so, than governments worldwide. So if we can vote with our dollars, if we can buy products that return to the earth once we're done with them, anyone who's seen those photos of the birds in the middle of the once pristine Pacific with their guts just full of plastic caps, and it's heartbreaking, and it comes back to us. The rate of cancer in the U.S. is now 41%. Here in Boulder, we lost two of our dear friends and leaders, change makers, just in the last month, and both of them were in their 40s. The cancer was at something like 20% just a generation ago. There's a pretty direct connection between spraying chemicals on our tables and thinking we're cleaning our tables and our own health. And that can be extended to anything. That can be extended to the T-shirts we buy, which use a pound of bleach or whatever the stats are. I read too many blogs to retain facts, unfortunately. But the gist is true, and we're just punishing this earth right now. And if we can buy products that have that life cycle kind of built into them, that are compostable or biodegradable, and elegant while we use them, sounds good to me. And it doesn't have to be more expensive. Like I said, with Craigslist, often it's you're getting more for less.
Nice.
Yeah.
To change gears with this next question, you seem pretty fired up about life. I've been reading a lot of your stuff and watched a lot of your videos. What's the secret?
Well, for me, I grew up in the Buddhist community, and like in many religions and non-religions for that matter, atheism, we take a vow to be a benefit to others. And when that becomes, at least personally speaking, when that became my orientation, life became a lot more fun. I mean, if life is just about ourselves, then we are going to spend our times like flipping through catalogs, figuring out what to buy to make ourselves happy. And while, again, good products can contribute to a happy, healthy life, there's kind of a limit to that consumerism, as we've all seen in Fight Club and all that, where they make fun of that notion. Eleanor Roosevelt said the same thing. She said, I was miserable my entire life until I realized that I was really good at and really enjoyed helping others. And from that moment on, I tried to do that all the time not because I was altruistic, but because it made me happy. So I am fired up. I'm also pretty freaked out about this world we're in. I get to go to all these conferences and festivals and see a lot of the thought leaders and change makers, and frankly, there aren't enough of them. And most of them are bought and paid for to some extent. Almost all of us are making compromises that, you know, cut beneath the muscle into the bone of our integrity. And we really need the next generation, and we need men, and we need everybody to get fired up. And this isn't about environmentalism or being liberal or being men or anything. This is, again, just about, as we say in Elephant, living a good life, helping others and having a good time doing so. Something like that.
Cool.
Can be fun.
Great. So you've interviewed some pretty big heavy hitters in the alternative health and the natural living space, from Deepak Chopra to Michael Pollan. Who was the most inspirational person you've met?
Wow, that's a great question. There's been a few. Lester Brown, who is not super well known. He works in DC. He actually works with governments to change the world. He's kind of behind the scenes. That man, unlike myself, retains every fact ever. You feel he's almost like Martin Sheen out of The West Wing. You feel like all I have to do is become president and appoint him to take care of the whole mess, and he'll figure it all out. Sister Helen Prejean, Dead Man Walking was based on her and her story. She really embodied there's this wonderful Christian quote that says, "I know how close you are to God by how joyful you are," or something like that. And she was one of the most joyful people I'd ever been around. But there's been a lot of them, and of course it has nothing to do with fame, generally. Some of these people, I was just at LOHAS here in Boulder, a green business conference. Coke, Starbucks, Petco, all these huge companies come to learn and talk about the environment. And there's this young lady who is working in Cambodia, and she started an eco-fashion line there. And most of the workers there, it's all fair trade, fair labor, and most of the workers there have HIV or, maybe came out of the sex trade. Very intense stories. And she's creating this beautiful products that pay people well, and it's really transformative. You could know nothing about the story of the business and just, it's fun and beautiful. Or you could know all about the story and it's pretty emotional. So, and she's 25. So it really makes me feel like if we can all engage our inspiration and stop worrying about, what time our favorite sitcom is coming on at night, or whatever it is that maybe is sucking up our time, cancel Netflix for a couple months and start a business, live your dreams. Everyone great always is talking about dreams and living them, like Joseph Campbell and Henry David Thoreau. I mean, there's something there. Like, we have one life to live. So
awesome. So you were raised in a Buddhist American family, and Buddhism is foreign to a lot of Westerners, a lot of Americans. It's been the teachings have been growing over the years, but it's still foreign to a lot of people out there. What are some of the key themes you think from Buddhism could help non-Buddhists? Because Buddhism has some fantastic teachings. What are some of the key themes that you think would help our readers and our followers?
Well, I think the main thing in Buddhism is religions love to talk, and religions love dogma and ritual, and Buddhism has all of that, but it's not that important. The Buddha actually had a teaching. It was like 12 great questions that aren't important. It was like, when did the universe begin? And, he kind of went over all these profound questions and said, these aren't important. Let's focus on, as Spike Lee said, doing the right thing. So I think Buddhism, the most important thing in Buddhism is meditation. You can talk about the philosophy and compassion and yada yada, but every religion hopefully talks about that. Meditation is very simply like we go to the gym, or we climb, or we do yoga, or we bicycle. We try and take care of our body. We eat good food. Meditation is very simply just training our mind in the same way. Um, this morning, I was up late, mostly working, and got up kind of in a fog. And the first thing I do is meditate. And it's not because I'm religious or spiritual or anything like that. It's really practical. It's just so that I'm present. Our minds love to not be present. We love to obsess about whatever is going well and whatever's not going well. And our minds are nuts. I mean, we're just kind of discursive. And all that discursiveness gets in the way of the present moment. And the present moment is the only moment in which we've ever loved anyone or had a good time. Or, that's why people like roller coasters or skiing, because these are things that force us into the present moment. And anyone who skis knows that it's probably not a good time to obsess about your life while you're going down the ski slope. You need to get present. And meditation just helps us do that. So I would say meditate for a couple minutes in the morning, a couple minutes before you go to bed every day. And, works for me. I'd be an incompetent nutcase without it. And then probably the other thing is we do a lot of bowing and a lot of dedicating of merit. So anything we do that might be good or a benefit to the world, we just do a little bow after that and say, I give away any good merit that might have come from that, I give that back to the world. So the idea is not hanging on to anything good that we've done. And that allows sort of the good times to keep rolling. Ego's tendency is to hold on to whatever we want, whether it's sex or love or money or whatever, food, and to push away anything we don't want. And the funny thing is neither one of those is really acknowledging the present moment or the truth of life, which is that the things we love often fall apart and torment us. That's where addictions come from. You're holding on so tightly to the things that give you pleasure, you turn them into pain. So, without getting too philosophical, basically, just the notion of giving back, I think, to the world and letting go of trying to me. My Buddhist teacher says that the mantra of the ego, the mantra meaning something we repeat nonstop, is what about me, what about me, what about me, what about me. And that's not a very ultimately happy way of living.
Okay, that's great. What's the best advice you've ever received?
I don't know. I don't think advice really did me much good. I was a pretty headstrong, energetic young man, and I went to these summer camps, these Buddhist summer camps and stuff, where I had mentors who were really hard on me, but really loved me. And I think more than any advice, they really just trained me to, it was almost like they were taming a wild horse. They didn't want to get rid of my energy, but they wanted to allow me to kind of use that energy instead of just being pulled around by my own enthusiasm. So, yeah, I think more than advice, sometimes it's like less talk and more action. And, obviously good parenting, good mentoring comes from a place of love. So if someone doesn't love you and they're giving advice to you, don't listen to it, ever. If they love you and they're giving you tough advice, even if they're off, there's probably a grain of truth in that. So maybe the best advice I ever heard is just listen and find people you trust who will give you honest feedback.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've been rocking it at Elephant for the last 10 years. You've been a leader in the space and have created some incredible content. What's next?
Well, I think what's next for Elephant is we're at 1.3 million readers a month, which makes us bigger than 90% of the blogs in the world and far, far smaller than the 10% who are bigger than us. So what's next, in a very simple way, is just to grow to the point where we're a household name, where when whatever's going on in the U.S. or the West generally, the English-speaking world, um, is troubling or exciting, that we can be a reference point. I mean, Jon Stewart, Oprah, these are my idols. These are people who are actually able to have a real ongoing effect on the world. And to the extent that we can offer gentleness and compassion and fun and humor as values that the world can embrace, bipartisanship, um, true patriotism that isn't us versus them, um, that will make me feel like my life is worthwhile. So our goal is to be as big as Huffington Post or whatever. Um, and this year we're going to start paying our writers in a pretty new media, innovative, kind of fun way, sort of borrowing from Kickstarter and Threadless and various sites that I love to pay people in a kind of merit-based, fun way. And really, I'm a journalist. I was trained as a journalist. My father was a journalist. My grandpa worked at Esquire. It's a big part of my goal to protect and nurture journalism and real reporting for the next generations. Elephant is not doing that yet. Right now, we're, as I say, a glorified blog. But to the extent that we can begin to edit and commission um, original investigative work, I'm excited about that. And then, our talk show, Walk the Talk Show, is just getting going again now that we're making money online. And our goal is to go to every college campus and Whole Foods and yoga studio and independent bookstore and whatever. I have a book coming out in the fall. So we'll do a little bit of a book tour and a talk show tour, just interviewing amazing people wherever we go. And we do it live, so, people can come and enjoy it live. And obviously the videos will go on YouTube and all that. So, yeah, it'll be an exhausting and fun couple of years, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Waylon, this has been great. It's been great getting to know you a bit, and thanks for sharing your story.
Hey, thank you. Thanks so much.